Hello and welcome to today's episode of Beyond the Broomstick, that podcast that opens up the doors to spirituality whilst taking the woo-woo out of the woo-woo and unearthing some of the new age fallacies that have found their way into modern day spirituality. I like to call them on it. Spirituality is incredibly basic, and I'm here to tell you why. For those of you that do not know, my name is Matilda and I am your host today, and I have been a professional psychic medium here in Australia for close to 20 years. In today's episode, we are going to unearth some of the new age fiction that's doing the rounds. We're going to talk about what really is spiritual, what lessons are, twin flames, and all of the rubbish that goes with it. I am putting a warning on this podcast. If you are listening to it with little people around, I am likely to use bad language in this episode, so I apologise. If you do not like cursing, switch off now. And if you have little people in your car, dropping them off at school or picking them up from school, please pause and listen with your headphones in a little bit later because things are gonna get spicy. Before we get into today's episode, I am going to take the time to thank this week's Patreon supporters. If you do not know about my Patreon, the link is in my bio. Patreon is a wonderful community in which we can talk a little bit freer. I can put a little bit more information up there than I can on social media. And there's a wonderful Discord which is just getting going, which gives you an opportunity to talk about things. It could be my predictions. It could be how you see things playing out. It could be just to talk about spirituality and your experiences. But lots and lots of things to add. We are just building it. I must admit that the biggest channel right now are the pet photos, but that's okay because we're all about the pets. Pop along, join up to my Patreon, and you will get access to the Discord as well as my monthly newsletter, a Patreon-only podcast, and a Patreon-only video, which has just gone up about the US political system. And over the coming months, I'll be able to put a lot more content up there. But first of all, we're going to thank this week's Patreon subscribers. Maggie Glenn, Laura Schaffner, Melissa Castrucci, Deborah Bogey, MH, Sue Clifford, Deborah Shapiro, Erin, Tiffany Pimley, Jar, Il Ryder, Lana L, Garrett Richmiller, Connie Hess, Megan, Sharon Raymer, Nini Martinez, Lizzie Perrison, Deborah Plamondon, Nicole, Shoshi Bauer, Michelle, Kathy, Janet Ellis, Scorpio Die, and Angie P. I must apologise for this episode being slightly late. I do try and get it out on a Monday. It has been a week for me with a lot of work on. I was away last weekend. And for those of you that follow me on social media, you will be aware that I am injured at the moment. Whilst I was in Sydney doing in-person readings, I managed to slip and break 2 toes. If that wasn't enough, I then had to make my way home and walk through Sydney Airport wearing a pair of oversized Crocs because it's all I could get on my feet. They subsequently gave me a massive blister on the sole of my foot, about the size of a 50-cent piece if you are in Australia. And then as I got home and I went to unpack, a very kind person had put my suitcase onto a couple of bar stools thinking they were doing the right thing. And I opened the suitcase and my tripod came out. landing vertically onto onto my fourth toe and splitting that open, and there was blood everywhere. So that's 3 injuries on one foot, and I am limping very, very badly. I cannot wear a boot because it will uneven my back, and that's messed up enough as it is. So I am currently, the only thing I can get on my feet is a pair of Birkenstocks. And it ain't glamorous. I can't even get runners on at the moment, although the hospital did tell me to wear tight-fitting shoes. The thought of tight-fitting shoes fills me with dread. It is 40 degrees here today where I am in Victoria, and I hate this weather. We are about to get thunderstorms and torrential rain to top off the 40 degrees. So I thought I'd do my podcast. So if you hear the atmospheric changes, enjoy. So let's talk about what's real and what's not. It's a bugbear of mine. If you know me, if you have watched me for a while, you know I don't take bull crap. You know, spiritual practice is spiritual practice. It's as simple as the fact that we have an afterlife. The fact that when our physical body dies, when that gives up, our spirit continues on. And that is the belief and the sole belief, or not the sole belief, but the proof that you need that spirituality exists. I am a psychic medium, and I say that for a reason. Many of you that have had readings with me, you either have a mediumship reading, which includes psychic reading, or you just book a plain old psychic reading. All mediums are psychic and can be able to make predictions depending on how they translate it, or if they can translate the messages they get from their spirit guides. It is not people that have passed over. It is not talking to the dead that gives me the predictions. It is my spirit guides. Okay, just to clear that up. All psychics are not mediums. That is number one strike. If you see someone that claims to be a psychic medium, make sure they can prove they can speak to dead people, because they're selling you a false misrepresentative if they cannot. They can be psychic, that's fine. Intuitives that call themselves psychic, it's not about listening to your spirit guides. If you are an intuitive, you are listening to your gut. And your gut can steer you wrong because the ego and your own wants and needs and things come into it. All right? That's the basis of today's conversation. What is spiritual and what isn't? A lot of these new age practitioners who promise to help you ascend to the 5D, they're taking your money and they are a scam. End of. The 5D is a scam. It's a scam. And I'm not even going to say for entertainment purposes only. These scam artists are not spiritual. They are selling you a falsehood. You are not moving into a new world on 7th month of the Sunday of 2000 and whatever. Every year they come up with a new date. Every year they make a new promise. It hasn't happened yet. I watch one guy on social media and he's the biggest ick. Oh my God. Oh, he lives in Costa Rica. I dislike him almost as much as I dislike the Angry Mango with his, I feel sorry for you if you haven't transitioned. Or I've just downloaded some information and I need to give it to you. You're an intuitive maybe. You are selling a load of bullshit. Absolutely. And people believe you. I have one client who was paying someone on a monthly basis to speak to someone to assist them transcend to the new world. They were in so much fear that they were going to be left behind and not awake that they were paying someone on a monthly basis. I am just absolutely taken aback by the absolute gall of the New Age community. The ascension just happens naturally. The being awake, well, they seem to think that if you are awake, to be awake, you need to believe in their conspiracy theories. It's just nothing but a cult. Steer clear of it. Spirituality is as simple as behaving in a spiritual manner and believing that spirit exists. End of. You don't need to do a rain dance, turn around 5 times, stick a crystal up your bum to be spiritual. You simply have to be open to receiving and open your energy. That's it. There's a lot of these New Age practitioners out there that are intuitives claiming to be psychics or psychic mediums. They simply pick up on energy. They may be empaths. They may have something. Whatever it is underdeveloped. And I've talked about this in a previous podcast episode around the unhealed healer. A lot of these people are coming from ego, especially the guy in Costa Rica. I'm not going to give you his name, as I say, but the unhealed healer causes so much damage with the messages that they give. Not everything is a spiritual message. I know many of you say the universe works in mysterious ways. We will get signs from our loved ones. That there is nothing to question about that. But when you spend your life claiming everything is a spiritual message or has a spiritual meaning, you miss the real ones. You over egg the cake. It is true. Spirit will try and connect with you, move you, get you to where you need to be through messages. It can be numbers, it can be number plates, it can be songs, it can be very personal to you. It's not always feathers and birds. If you're on the brink of making a decision that is life or death and you see a feather and say, that is my sign that I am making the right decision, and you take yourself into a dangerous situation, then you are missing the true signs. They are specific to you and your lost loved one. They're not really lost. They are with you. But the afterlife will communicate as best it can with you. But if you're looking at everything as a sign, you are missing the true meaning of spirituality. You are missing the truth in the signs. The unhealed healer, the intuitive that has an ego that is doing readings for you, and they tell you that you have signed a soul contract in your previous life to agree to the horrendous circumstances that you are undergoing now, is talking the biggest load of bullshit I've ever heard in my life. It's rubbish. It's crap. I picked up the pieces many years ago from a young lady. She was in her 30s when she met someone who an intuitive said was her twin flame. And she hung in and continued to read with this person and give this person money to be told that you made this agreement with this person before you came down to earth. And yes, they've run away. And yes, they don't want anything to do with you, but they are the one. You hold in there. 10 years of her life she sat. She didn't look for another relationship. She didn't open up the possibilities that were out there and missed her opportunity to have children. Because some intuitive reader kept telling her that this was her twin flame. They didn't give her true spiritual advice. When you work with a established medium who has done the work, that has worked on their delivery and the way they receive messages and the way that they give their information, they would have said to her, they're treating you incorrectly. That is your lesson. Not all lessons are spiritual. Not all lessons are to be passed from the another life. They are lessons that you need to learn in this lifetime, that are to address things that have happened in your past. And you can put them into practice in the everyday. You are never powerless. Telling someone to hold on because a relationship, a situation, whatever they are facing, is because they signed a contract in a previous life, removes the power that you have. New Age is something that I see as a seasoned medium, as a seasoned spiritualist, as something that is very dangerous with the messages that they give, because they don't know, because they're going on their unhealed ego and their intuitive feelings to give you information that they find within themselves and they haven't dealt with. It's an answer that they give you because they don't have the answer from their spirit guides, because they're not listening. Because they're intuitive and they haven't done the training to hear their spirit guides. They haven't done the training to remove their ego from information they're giving. Be careful out there, guys. There is a lot of dangerous practitioners that are damaging people with the information. Not everything is spiritual, and not everything that is referred to as a sign is spiritual. It can be disrespect. And disrespect is never, ever taken lightly. Yes, people do have past lives. I absolutely do not deny that. When we pass over and we are in the afterlife, at some point part of our spirit remains and the rest goes into our next body, whatever that may be. And another question that I get a lot is about, do people hold on to grudges? If somebody is violent or nasty or does harm to people in the living world, do they still continue that in the afterlife? No. Ego is what causes those issues. Somebody's ego is always going to cause them to behave in the way that they do. And that goes for world leaders. That goes for people who commit horrendous crimes. It's not the answer that a lot of people want. It's not the information that a lot of people want. But when your spirit leaves your living body or your dead body and goes into the afterlife, you do have a life review. You get to see where you've messed up. You get to remove the ego from your decisions. I've had people come through and apologize, but I've never had someone come through and say, I made your life a living hell whilst I was on the earth plane. I'm just going to continue to do it from the afterlife. That is a load of rubbish. I've said this before and I will say it again. Spirit comes through in a pure love, irrespective of their choices on the earth plane. They also come through completely healed physically and mentally from any illnesses or disabilities or things that held them back whilst they were in their physical body. And again, yes, it is my belief, after many years of working with spirit, that there is such a thing as past lives, but people leave some of their spirit and take another part of it into their next body. That doesn't mean to say that they cannot communicate with you when you talk through a medium, or in fact they can't hear you when you talk to them in the living world. So those are what I have learned over a period of time. My biggest disappointment in life is when I watch people believe the fear that the New Age cult-like phenomenon brings to people. When people believe that we are moving to a new world order, or the frequency. Oh my God, look, I have this little graph here. See how the frequency has changed. We are all moving to the new world. Fuck off. Seriously? Seriously? Spiritualism is the basis of believing that spirit exists. Nothing else. Nothing else matters. These people that put fear in you, people that breed fear, that tell you that you are paying the price for a decision that you made in your previous life, are the ones you really need to be scared of. They give spirituality a really bad name, and they bring fear and shame to people. As a psychic medium, I would never, ever inject my own thoughts into information I'm giving. I'm not attached to that outcome. But if I had my guides or your guides or someone in spirit telling me that you needed to hang in to a relationship that is making you ill, you are living a life of fear, or putting you in danger in any way, whether that be physically, mentally, etc., I would interject and I would tell you what I thought. But in my 20 years of doing readings, I have never, ever said that someone is undergoing a traumatic, debilitating situation because they signed a soul contract. It's just not something that happens. We have to learn lessons. The universe is teaching you lessons every single day, and you will be faced with the same lesson time and time again until you actually get it. And you're not alone. I've had to learn lessons. They have been traumatic. They have been painful. But you know what? When you learn them, the freedom that you get is amazing. But those lessons are not in place because you signed a soul contract with Alfred in 1600 and something, because they were your son and you were their mother, and you've got a mother-son relationship and you can't actually be together, and that means that he's your twin flame, and although he hasn't heard from you, the intuitive on the other end of the phone or the reading is going to encourage you to continue to contact them. It's called stalking. Continue to be in touch with them. You know, they must love you. They do love you. They just don't know how to express it because you signed a soul contract. Where in that part of any reading is it for your greatest good? Which is what working with spirit is all about, to give you the information for your growth and your greatest good. How is that giving you growth? It's not. It's holding you back. It's pigeonholing you. It's making you live in fear because, if you walk away from this twin flame and you don't hold on to it for 10 years, then you won't meet someone else that makes you feel this good. This is why the New Age people and the educated readers cause drama, trouble, misconception of spirituality. They're there giving advice that is not based on anything that is real. I have had people contact me. Luckily, this hasn't happened for a really long time. But I went through a stage of people contacting me constantly on the back of constant readings with websites and phone call readings and people that kept them hanging on. And they would call the same reader time and time again, and the reader would say, he's going to contact you next week. He really loves you. He just doesn't know how to tell you. He's going to contact you next week. Yes, no, it will be next week, or it'll be 2 weeks, or it'll be a month. And I've had people contact me and I've gone, he's not interested. He's moved on. Whatever I'm given from spirit, I'm passing on to them. And they're going, well, you're lying. You're fake, because you've given me a load of rubbish, because this reader's been telling me for the last year that he loves me. So people, use your common sense. Really investigate the type of practitioner that you need, whether it be a psychic, a medium, a clairvoyant, an intuitive, if you want confirmation on the way that you feel, if you want predictions, if you want to talk to the afterlife. That is on you to start making those decisions and really investigating the practitioners that you see pop up on social media. We've talked about ethics, we've talked about the unhealed healer. I have talked today at length in when you have to realise that not everything is a spiritual sign, a spiritual contract. I don't believe in spiritual contracts, and many actual mediums don't either. Whether it is a lesson that you need to learn from the universe, which can be the most eye-opening time of your life. I often am able to pinpoint within a psychic reading what it is that you need to work on for your shadow work in order to make yourself feel better and move forward in a way that is comfortable for you. I don't do it on purpose. Many times, I would say about 95% of my clients cry, because they're validated when I'm able to pinpoint that moment in time given to me by their spirit guides or my spirit guides, that's able to say, you know what, when this happened at this age or around this time, that's really stayed in your psyche, and you think about that so often. If you allow yourself to heal and you rip the Band-Aid off and lean into learning from that and use this to counteract your shadow work, then you're going to be onto a winning team. Having a psychic reading or a mediumship reading is about empowering. It's about giving you the tools to move on. It's not about keeping you coming back for reading after reading. In fact, I have a rule that is, don't have a psychic reading more than twice a year. And certainly don't have a mediumship reading more than twice a year. If you need to call your favourite reader once a month, they are not giving you the tools to learn your lessons, your universal lessons, not the ones you signed in a past life, your universal lessons, then they are not doing their fucking job. Like a personal trainer. Eventually, a personal trainer wants you to be able to train, or in between your personal training sessions, they want you to go out there and do it by yourself. They don't need or want to be with you for every training session. That's what we are. We're personal trainers for spirituality. Stay away from the cults. I promise you we are not moving into a new world order. And I promise you those graphs and patterns or whatever it is that they are showing you on TikTok that says, look, the frequency is changing, we're moving more towards the 5D, is the biggest load of bullshit you will ever see in your life. It doesn't exist. Spirituality is really basic. It honestly really is. The accession to the new world, it's just a cult. And these people will find another thing to promise you next year. I don't know if they come up with a date this year yet. Last year, I think it was October the 3rd. That sort of rings a bell that everyone was moving up to a new world. Nothing happened in my life, and I can speak to dead people, so I don't know what they're all doing. I'm going to finish off today's episode by telling you about one of my most wow moment readings. Now, I often have wow moments in readings. Not that I can talk to dead people, I know that, that's all part of my life. But I'm really talking about information and things that have happened that show me that spirit are always working for our greatest good. It's a recent reading, so I'm going to keep things very high level so I don't give away too much information. I recently talked to somebody who had several children, and very sadly, after birth, she lost one of a pair of twins. Obviously very sad, and many years ago now. And during her reading, we brought through several members of her family who gave validation that they were around and that her son was with them. And I wasn't getting a lot from this little boy. And I was like quite annoyed with myself, to be perfectly honest. Anyway, towards the end of the reading, this little voice popped up and said, "Tell my mum I looked after my brother." And I relayed that information. And I was able to give a little bit more information around this little boy's passing. And he repeated, "Tell my mum I looked after him and I kept him safe." It turns out that the twin of this little boy that had passed over, I don't know what the actual situation was, but he was in a classroom, and after he had left that classroom, and I'm talking within moments, maybe an hour or whatever, there was a mass shooting in that classroom. And that twin wanted to let his mum know that he did his best to keep his brother safe. And that is what mediumship readings and spirituality is all about. Until next week, I look forward to talking with you again soon. Lots of love. See you soon.